Welcome ladies and gentlemen, Tactical Lich here, and today we have a wild army build video. Normally I would be showcasing some extreme buff stacking, but this time we'll be doing things in reverse, and instead of buff stacking we'll be showcasing debuff stacking. Leading the army here we have Alberic+Henri, who is not essential to this army. Instead, the essential parts are 3 units. 1. The Shadow Walkers, poisonous, melee attack and missile damage. And supporting them we have the Mage of Death coming in with a Soul Blight and Spirit Leech. The Soul Blight providing damage debuff of 25%. Combined with the Shadow Walker's poisonous attack, that's going to be 40% of damage reduction. And then there is a Frostheart Phoenix in the skies with the Blizzard Aura, reducing the damage output by a further 12%. So that means that is a total of 52% of damage reduction maximum. Now for the rest of the army, we have Rangers supported by Spears, a bunch of mobility in terms of Elarian Reaver Archers, regular Elarian Reavers, and a single Silverham for a sturdier mobility. For our opponent here, the Dark Elves, nemesis of the High Elves, a front line of Bleak Swords backed up by a single Hellebron Knight. They are protecting the Reaper Bolt Thrower crew, and then there is a single War Hydra centerpiece in the middle of the battle lines. For mobility, very staple of the Dark Elves here, Scourge Runner Chariots, great cost-efficient anti-large armor-piercing skirmishing firepower, a couple Dark Riders with shields on the right, and then there's a single Sisters of Singing Doom for that rampaging effect. In the skies leading the army, Malekith on Seraphon, bring a whole bunch of stuff really. Gates of Malice, Chillwind, Soul Stealer, the very standard loadout, and of course the breath attacks on dragons, stand your ground, and all that good stuff. And that's it for the army builds here. Now let's get the battle started and see what this debuff stacking can do with the minus 52%. The Scourge Runners would open up with a bit of skirmishing play, as usual just shooting at my cavalry, chipping away their models. Especially important here, eliminating the skirmishing cavalry so they won't be running down your routing units in the late game. But they themselves also got exposed to a lot of missile fire from the High Elves, being focus fire from 2 Shadow Walkers unit and some of the Elarian Reaver Archers. 1 model of Scourge Runners are already down. Frostheart Phoenix also jumps in hoping to push them away, but he himself is taking some counterfire from the Scourge Runners, so he'll be backing off while the rest of my infantry move up. The Elarian Reaver Archers here, seeing the lack of cavalry on the Dark Elf left flank, will be moving up hoping to possibly chase down the Scourge Runners, but then a little bit of Miss Micro here. Being caught by the Bleak Swords, they will be taking some damage before being pulled away and move on to the next target. Over here, Silver Helms charging into some Dark Riders with shields. They're receiving a rear charge from more Dark Riders, but their armor should help them hold out in this engagement, especially with that martial prowess buffing up their melee stats. Back to the front line, Rangers pushing away Dread Spears and the Elarian Reavers driving off Scourge Runner Chariots. And in the skies, Frostheart Phoenix is just standing by looking for an opportunity to engage, while my Rangers are pulling away from the War Hydra so that I can push up some spears to block it up. Now in the skies, Frostheart Phoenix will be challenging Malekith and Seraphon to a duel. This doesn't usually end well for the Phoenix since it is simply no match against the legendary Witch King on a mighty black dragon. Malekith can and will break the Blue Pigeon, especially with Soul Stealer equipped. But this is no ordinary engagement since we do have a secret trick up our sleeve. Our secret debuff stacking will be activated with a Soul Blight upgraded version dropped onto the area. Now this is not the end as we switch over the targets from the Shadow Walkers, shooting at Malekith, poisoning him. And don't forget about the Frostheart Phoenix, who also provide a weapon strength debuff with the Blizzard Aura, reducing Malekith's weapon strength by another 12%. With a total 52% of damage reduction, Malekith only has a puny 249 weapon damage. Even if Malekith has better attack and will land his hit, his strikes are as strong as a wet noodle. Now for the rest of the battlefield, we have some Dark Elf units pushing forward with the help of some Sisters of Singing Doom, clearing away all my frontline infantry. The Hellebronite, despite winning against my spears, their progress is extremely slow. So the Bleak Swords here need to wrap around to get to the other side of the battlefield, but they are also being pursued by some Silver Helms. At this point, Malekith is still fighting that Frostheart Phoenix. It's been over a minute of the engagement, and the Frostheart Phoenix still has over half HP. That is even after a Soul Stealer, and not a single drop of healing was available to the High Elves. Now over here, Elarian Reaver archers will be chipping away the health of Malekith. Malekith taking some damage from the armor-piercing hits of the Frostheart Phoenix as well. Rangers combined with some Elarian Reavers will be cleaning up some tattered Bleak Swords on the side, while Alberic+Henri also targeting Malekith. But unfortunately, for some reason, his shots are not lining up this time. Only 463 damage value so far, possibly auto-targeting some of these cheaper Bleak Swords. So not a lot of damage value, but now he's finally targeting Malekith and earning back some value. And Malekith on top of that is being hit by yet another Soul Blight, down to 327 damage value. Also hounded by a Frostheart Phoenix. He is not even able to rout off these Rangers and Spears simply because of all those damage debuff. He's just not doing it right now with his wet noodling attacks. Now over here, Shadow Walkers focusing fire on the War Hydra, hoping to bring down its HP so that I can rout it off with some mobility. There are some Rangers at the back, quite tattered, possibly terror routed earlier, now coming back to clean up the Witch Elves. While over here, there are some Rangers just idling, not doing much as they have finished off their opponent. One final Ranger chasing off some routing Hellebronite. Malekith diving down trying to rout some spears, but for some reason they are holding and instead of terror routing. Now with the battlefield control mostly established by the High Elves, the great issue is how to finish off Malekith, as he is such a powerhouse. With a meaty health pool and healing from Soul Stealer, it's going to be hard to finish him off, especially considering that we are now running low on missiles. But we still have means to grind him down. Now let us fast forward here as the War Hydra is being routed by the Frostheart Phoenix, continuously being chased by a faster monster. He will not be coming back unless Malekith managed to catch and pin down the Frostheart Phoenix, but he himself seems to be busy dealing with some Rangers, while Alberic+Henri continuously shoots him in the back, now earning back some decent value finally. Although, with such a low amount of ammo, I doubt he is gonna earn back his own cost. Anyways, we'll be seeing some Shadow Walkers routing the Bleak Swords, as they do have that anti-infantry bonus in their weapon strength. On the far side, Malekith diving into some Shadow Walkers. Not exactly the best fight for him, not because he can't fight the Shadow Walkers, but because he will receive some poison debuff from the poisonous weapons of the Shadow Walkers. And now with the Frostheart Phoenix also dropping in, Alberic+Henri is activated on top of all these Dark Elf units, and on top of that, Soul Blight, further debuffing their weapon strength. Malekith down to 249 attack damage, and the Scourge Runners, a puny, 19 per hit. The spell might not be causing much damage, but it sure is keeping my units alive right now. Of course, there was a Soul Stealer dropped earlier, draining the health of some of my remaining units and also healing Malekith, but nonetheless, Malekith is just not accomplishing much as long as the Soul Blight is activated in this blob, and on top of that, Scourge Runners are now terrified by the presence of the Frostheart Phoenix, removing themselves from this battle, while I was able to just goon out Malekith, chipping away his health. With only Malekith remaining in this engagement, it is more imminent to finish him off, so we'll be switching over to Spirit Leech. Though when the Scourge Runners return and enter the blob once again, and Malekith dropping in a Soul Stealer, will be dropping in another Soul Blight, as Spirit Leech is now on cooldown. Also, a great thing is Soul Blight debuffs enemy armor, so that makes the hits from my Mage of Death as well as Alberic+Henri, who ran out of ammo and pulled out his sword, a little bit more effective against all these Scourge Runners and Malekith. But unfortunately for me, there is some rampaging effect earlier with the Sisters of Singing Doom pinning down my single entities in the blob, while Alberic+Henri being stuck too long against Malekith will receive some massive damage in the battle. Being terrified, he will be routed away, and at this stage of battle I have ran out of mobility other than some remaining Elarian Reaver archers. They will be charging in hoping to use their mask to pin down Malekith, but Malekith with the upgraded Dragon Mask can simply pull out and continue his pursuit. So Alberic+Henri will be finished off by Malekith himself, while the Scourge Runners are chased down by my Elarian Reaver archers. Now do note that this battle happened on the ranked ladder, so there is no attacking rules enforced in this battle. So my opponent, after destroying Alberic+Henri on the battlefield, will decide to sit in the forest, but that is not a problem for me because I can simply Spirit Leech him to death. Since Dark Elves are already behind on balance of power, I don't even need to finish off Malekith. I just need to lower his HP enough to a point army losses triggers. To be completely honest, this isn't exactly the most competitive build you can bring as the High Elves, but it sure can do some funny stuff. For example, here we have two dedicated anti-large single entities here, Henri le Massif and Alberic+Henri, even having the heroic killing blow to buff up their weapon strength by 50%, but we completely counter it, and even some more, just debuffing slightly their weapon strength, rendering their ability useless, and also debuffing their armor, allowing our Shadow Walkers to do some maximum damage, while our Frostheart Phoenix is just tanking all the damage from these two single anti-large characters. If the Frostheart Phoenix was alone, it would have been dead by now, but with all the weapon damage, debuff, and also healing from Alberic, it is still holding on. On top of that, this weapon strength debuff stacking renders the targeted units a lot less threatening. That means you can try out some riskier maneuvers to challenge them, because even if you made a mistake, they can't punish you as hard as normal. Take my Death Mage for example. Normally I wouldn't charge her into Henri le Massif on a Hippogriff, unless I'm very desperate. But seeing that she is still so very healthy and that I have dropped in a Soul Blight, this created a safer environment for my Death Mage to fight in. Now he isn't poisoned yet, so he still have over 250 weapon strength, but once the Shadow Walkers switch their targets over to Henri le Massif, his weapon strength will be further debuffed to less than 200. With a weapon strength that weak, even if he managed to land hits on Alberic and the Death Mage, it wouldn't matter much anyways. Also, anything that gets hit by a stray arrow from the Shadow Walkers being covered by the Frostheart Phoenix Blizzard Aura and also the Soul Blight spell effect. They will also receive all of these weapon strength reduction. The flaw of this build, and the main reason why I say it's not competitive, is that its use is very specific. It works well against armies that rely on heavy hitters, big giant monsters and all of that, but when the damage is spread across the entire army instead of focusing on a couple big monsters, then there is no specific target that you can direct the damage debuff onto. For example, here I can shoot the Cold One Riders with the poison shots and also debuff them with Soul Blight and Frostheart Phoenix. Yes, they are now debuffed massively, but the rest of the army here, with all the Witch Elves, the Harkonnens Executioners, they are all plowing through my front line. The Frostheart Phoenix is fighting, but it is not distracting and absorbing enemy damage. And so the whole core idea of this build falls apart. Now a quick rundown of army performances to wrap everything up. Dark Elves here, Malekith get almost 5k damage value. Definitely a mistake on my point to not target Alberic+Henri well enough to target most of his shots on Malekith, resulting in him shooting a bunch of shots into regular units instead of the expensive giant dragon. But in the end, the Frostheart Phoenix tanking did pay off right there, holding on against Malekith while the rest of my army was able to work down the rest of the Dark Elf army. And that means in the end the Rangers were able to recover most of their value. The Silverhelms ran over a bunch of enemy units, and also the Illyrian Reaver Archers were dishing out the pain with their skirmishing firepower and running down the routing troops. Spears mostly used for delaying enemy advances and all that, while the characters here, Alberic+Henri, unfortunately I did not do a good job in microing him, so not even recovering his value despite using up all his ammo, and of course he was missing some shots as well. Mage of Death draining Malekith with Spirit Leech and also charging in with a bit of attacks, getting well over her cost. And Frostheart Phoenix getting some okay damage, while the Shadow Walkers did really well, being a strong skirmisher and also fought off some of the regrouping Dark Elf units in the end with the anti-infantry bonus. As for the Dark Elves here, mostly carried by Malekith, especially with his Soul Stealer spam. If not for the weapon damage debuff, he would have been doing much more damage, but fortunately for me here, he spent too much time wet noodling the Frostheart Phoenix, and the rest of the army was worked down. The Reaper Bolt Thrower didn't do much here, while the rest of the army mostly didn't recover their value here. And the Scourge Runners, one got ran down earlier without any mobility to protect them, while the other one held on to late game and recovered their own value. Sisters of Singing Doom, too expensive for what they can do against Rangers, and they took a lot of damage due to their lack of armor, and then the War Hydra being routed off early due to its shaky leadership. As a conclusion, this build isn't exactly a strong one, but in certain occasions it can do some funny things. It is pretty good against goon squads composed of single entities and large hard-hitting monsters or monstrous units, or perhaps unit blobs that are trying to grind you down. Anyways, that is all for today's army build. I hope viewers you enjoyed this video, and if you do and want to see more, be sure to hit the like and subscribe to my channel. I'll be uploading more Total War Warhammer multiplayer content, including battle replays, wild army builds like this one, or just general tips and strategies for multiplayer. Anyways, that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Tactical Lich, signing out.